City Council asking tough questions as they work to hold Monzi accountable. What we're learning about Safe Streets practices. And a judge rules the 5 Brooklyn Day suspects will face 3 separate trials. Why the defense is questioning the state's mounting evidence. As Maryland faces a growing budget deficit, we'll show you how proposed legislation could affect your everyday spending.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 6.
We're tracking our next weather maker with some rain expected to move in tomorrow morning. You're taking a live look at conditions right now at the Inner Harbor, Towson, and out on the roads. It's looking clear out there for now, but those showers will return for the start of the weekend. Good evening, and thanks so much for staying with us. I'm Maxine Stryker. Meteorologist Jasmine Lomax is tracking that rain as it heads our way. And Jasmine, what can we expect to see this weekend? Terrible timing, right?
Oh, it's always the weekend, it seems,
always.
Maxine. Well, unfortunately, if you do have plans to be outside tomorrow, the rain could affect those plans. And even on Sunday, we're talking a drier pattern. But behind this next system, very windy conditions. So we're keeping track of the system as it continues to move east. Still away from us right now, but tomorrow, the rain does move in. Now, this will last throughout the day, and there could even be some moments of heavy rain. But as we head into Sunday, we start to dry out. It's when we head into Sunday, though, that we notice the pickup in winds. And with the rain and the heavy winds, we could be talking some instances of downed tree limbs or even power lines. You want to make sure that you are staying alert. Now, we're looking at the chance for heavy rain and rainy and breezy conditions tomorrow, and that's all ahead of the wind on Sunday. Coming up, I'll have a closer look at the timing and just how windy it gets in my full forecast. Back to you.
All right, Jasmine, thank you. Put the power of the Weather Authority Storm Center in your hands. Download the free WBFF Weather Authority app for your smartphone and use our powerful Doppler radar to follow storms right down to your street. Just go to your app store and search for WBFF to get started. A city council oversight hearing answering some pressing questions about the city's flagship gun violence intervention program. Monzi's director telling council members how Safe Streets programs work and how employees are vetted and what happens when the workers come across illegal weapons. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost has the details.
This moment in Thursday night's city council hearing on Safe Streets hiring practices sticking out to many.
And so if there are weapons that are seen in those moments, no, they are not communicating that with law enforcement.
That admission from the mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement coming just months after Safe Streets workers mediated conflicts here at the Brooklyn Day block party in July, where weapons were present. And hours later, 30 people were shot. So Friday, we went to the Brooklyn community where the Safe Streets spot sits along the main street.
Hi there.
Looking for some community input.
I don't think it's a good idea for them not to call the police. I think it's always a good idea for the cops to get involved.
They're never there.
Around the corner,
They can't save everybody. You feel me?
a different view.
What do y'all need them to do? What do y'all want them to go up and take the gun away?
If they're not required to involve law enforcement, what's the point of the program?
Jason Johnson, former Baltimore City Police Deputy Commissioner, argues there should be a policy in place for Safe Streets workers to get law enforcement involved.
If Safe Streets personnel cannot take any action to actually prevent an act of violence that they know or highly suspect will occur, how else can it be effective? And is it really a credible program to the community?
A question Councilman Isaac Yitzi Schleifer, chair of the committee, argues is the crux of his concerns, especially with Baltimore City grappling with a gun violence crisis.
They simply diffuse the situation on the spot and let everybody go on their way. So that is certainly very concerning. When we have tens of millions of dollars going to an entity that is telling us that they're not willing to be part of removing guns from the streets of Baltimore.
Friday, we sent the other members of the city council questions asking, do you believe it's appropriate that these employees working for a taxpayer-funded program do not report to law enforcement when there are weapons involved? If yes, please explain why the city should continue to fund a program that is not alerting police when someone has a weapon. Council President Nick Mosby telling Fox 45 News in a statement, Safe Streets workers are not law enforcement or serve as confidential informants agreements with law enforcement, adding Monzi says the current policy is best practices. Councilman Antonio Glover also issuing a lengthy statement telling Fox 45 News in part, quote, as part of their work to change cultural norms in the community, their role is to convince that individual to put the firearm away in a secure location. The rest of the council elected to serve the people of Baltimore, ignoring the questions. In Baltimore, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Well, Monzi also revealed the salaries of Safe Streets workers. Violence interrupters make an annual salary of $45,000. Site supervisors make $50,000, and site directors take home $65,000 a year. Benefits are based on packages that community-based organizations offer their employees. And it is important to note that Monzi and the Safe Streets program are highly funded for the fiscal year 2024. Monzi had a budget of $22.1 million. About $12 million of those dollars were earmarked for neighborhood safety and engagement programs. Safe Streets, one of many programs that falls under that umbrella, although we do not know exactly how much it receives. On top of that, Monzi received $250,000 in general funds for Safe Streets to offset reduction in state funding. After Baltimore City's largest mass shooting in history at the Brooklyn Day block party, where 30 people were shot, 2 of them killed, it was revealed that Safe Streets employees were there and completed 5 mediations before the shooting happened. The city considered those mediations successful, but never shared copies of the forms the workers used to complete them. Ultimately, 18-year-old Aaliyah Gonzalez and 20-year-old Kylie Svegbemi lost their lives that night. And attorneys representing the 5 defendants charged in the Brooklyn Day mass shooting are now disputing the charges and the evidence the state plans to present in trial. It comes after a judge ruled to try the defendants in 3 separate trials. The state connected each suspect with evidence from the scene, including surveillance footage, ballistics, and the defendants' own statements. But the defense, including the 15-year-old suspect's attorney, are questioning that evidence.
What we have seen so far, the photos and the video footage that they speak about is really, you have to have your mind made up of what you want to see to walk away with that conclusion. So I think there's going to be, and that might be symbolic of the state's case. You know, it's close, but it's murky. It's not clear the way it should be before they ask for a guilty verdict when their standard is beyond a reasonable doubt. But we'll see how it unfolds.
The state did not have any further comment. The 3 trial dates will be set on May 1st. Maryland is facing a major budget deficit, and we're now learning it's worse than first thought. The latest estimates show revenue is down by $250 million more than previously expected. The Senate moving through the budget first, discussing their priorities and how to fund programs. Senate President Bill Ferguson remains adamant on not raising taxes this year, but Marylanders could see other increases.
We are constitutionally required to pass a balanced budget. Our economy is not moving as fast as we would like it to be moving. That's not the time to take more money out of the economy.
But should Marylanders be prepared for those various fee increases to be implemented this year, and then perhaps prepare for tax increases in years to come?
Yes, there will be places where Marylanders will see increased fees for targeted purposes.
Some of those targeted purposes include a fee on firearm sales and ammunition, as well as an increase on vehicle registration.
It would be a mistake for the legislature to use its newly expanded budgetary power to return to the old habits of raiding the rainy day fund or recklessly spending down the surplus.
The deficit is growing despite a warning from former Governor Larry Hogan. While the Senate president says your taxes aren't likely to go up right now, if legislation passes in the General Assembly, you could see extra fees tacked on to things like home deliveries and sales tax. House Bill 1515 would lower the state sales tax rate from 6% to 5%, but it would expand what you have to pay sales tax on, like mechanics, dry cleaning, haircuts. Experts warn it could hit families the hardest.
All these fee increases have one thing in common, is that they're going to hurt lower income and middle income families, because those are the ones who pay the bulk of these increase in fees.
Lawmakers are still considering the proposed legislation. They'll hold a hearing on the sales tax bill on March 11th.
Fox 45 is following breaking news out of D.C. Donald Trump is defending TikTok as a ban on the popular app advanced in the House. It's an apparent reversal for the former president, but he says a TikTok ban would help social media company Meta, an outcome he doesn't want to see. The House's current bill would give TikTok's parent company ByteDance 6 months to divest. As president, Trump tried for a similar ban but was blocked by the courts. Lawmakers pushing for the divestment say TikTok is doing everything it can to oppose that move.
Has your office been flooded by calls from people who don't want you to move forward?
Yes, we've been flooded with calls, record amounts of calls. Any member of the Energy and Commerce Committee that voted yesterday has been flooded.
TikTok says it does not and would never share U.S. user data with the Chinese government. Meanwhile, President Biden says he would sign a bill banning TikTok, despite withdrawing Trump's past executive order doing the same. Stay with Fox 45 News on air and online as we learn more.
The immigration debate sparked a memorable moment during the State of the Union. I'm Kayla Gaskins with that story straight ahead.
Now you can watch Fox 45 News for free anytime on Amazon Fire TV or Samsung TV Plus. Americans are giving President Biden some good marks after last night's State of the Union. That's according to a new CNN poll, which shows about 60% of Americans had a positive reaction to last night's speech, including 35% who felt very positive. 62% of those who watched said Biden's proposals will move the U.S. in the right direction, up from just 45% before the speech. Republicans and Democrats reacting today.
Joe Biden delivered an incredible speech that was very well received by the American people, beginning, middle, and end.
It was pointed towards a far left agenda, and that he's going to struggle with, I think, in the independents when they unwind exactly what was said.
Those polls results come from more than 500 respondents who were recruited to participate before the speech and then watched last night. And despite some positive reactions from many Americans, Biden's State of the Union speech was surrounded by conversations on immigration and border security. Sinclair national correspondent Kayla Gaskins has the latest tonight from Washington.
As President Biden made his way to the podium Thursday to give the State of the Union address, Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene handed him one of these pins, demanding he say the name, Laken Riley.
I know how to say the name. Laken Riley.
The 22-year-old was murdered in Georgia last month, allegedly by a migrant from Venezuela, her death turning into a symbol of the country's broken immigration system. When Biden addressed immigration Thursday evening, Greene continued to yell.
Not really.
Prompting this apparently ad-libbed response where Biden did say her name and held up the pin.
Laken Riley, an innocent young woman who was killed by an illegal.
Critics pointing out he called her Lincoln instead of Laken. Others zeroing in on his use of illegal to describe the alleged murderer.
Now, you should have said undocumented, but that's not a big thing, okay? What's the big thing about it?
Representative Joaquin Castro calling Biden's rhetoric dangerously close to language from Donald Trump. The Biden administration previously put out a memo advising the use of undocumented to describe people who enter the country illegally. Biden didn't offer any concrete action plans from the executive branch to fix the border, instead urging Congress to pass a bill.
When I left office, we gave Joe Biden the most secure border in U.S. history. What's happened now is a horror show.
With no signs of the crisis at the southern border improving, it remains a key issue for Americans as they pick who to vote for in November. I'm Kayla Gaskins reporting.
Criticizing former President Donald Trump during his State of the Union address, Biden using last night's speech to drum up voter support as he presses on for a second term. Senators across the aisle disagreed with Biden's approach.
The president obviously making a very strong political pitch. And, I would rather go back to having an actual address that talks about the State of the Union.
It is the responsibility of President Biden to lay it out and say, this is what we're going to do to fight back.
The 68-minute speech also prompted chanting in the chamber from Congress members.
Right now, you're taking a look at Towson and Baltimore. It's nice and dry in both places, but on the HD radar, you see a lot of green, and that's associated with our next weather maker. That system is going to have impacts on your plans tomorrow and even on Sunday as we get ready for rain, followed by very strong winds. 54 currently and cloudy over Baltimore. Across the state, we're seeing temperatures in the 50s, more spots in the 40s along the eastern shore. We have some cooler areas there, but all around nice and dry for Maryland. This is going to change, though, as we get ready for this next system already leading to rain across parts of our region. Notice the heaviest of rain is to our south, and tomorrow we could be dealing with some areas of heavy rain as well. First tonight, a couple of isolated showers are possible, but rain chances really begin to increase tomorrow afternoon. Expect showers throughout the day. There's a possibility for spots of heavy rain tomorrow night. All of this is going to taper shortly after midnight, and we will stay mostly dry on Sunday around the Baltimore area. However, west, we could be seeing some areas with snow. Now, for the rest of us, you'll notice the big change on Sunday will be the very strong winds. With saturated grounds from the rain and gusty conditions, we could be looking at down power lines or even tree limbs. Make sure that you are staying alert and you have multiple ways of receiving any warnings issued. On Monday, expect plenty of sunshine, but still very windy conditions. We're looking at widespread showers tomorrow and then a nice and dry stretch of days until next Friday. That's when we have the next chance for scattered showers as the weekend begins. 43 for the low temperature tonight. We stay mostly cloudy. However, a shower is possible. Rain chances really begin to pick up, though, tomorrow afternoon, continuing into the night when we have that chance for heavy rain. 53 for the high temperature. Then into next week, we're talking a big rise in temperatures. Coming up, I'll have a closer look at just how warm it gets and when we start to quiet down in the exclusive 10-day forecast.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
This time lapse shows a perfectly formed shelf cloud passing over Mississippi. These types of clouds are usually associated with a line of storms. They're often preceded by wind and then followed by rain. Compare that to these asperitis clouds over Auburn, Alabama. They're characterized by a wave-like appearance. And as you can see, they can look very dramatic depending on the cloud thickness and structure.
For more content like this, follow the National Weather Desk on TikTok.
With several moderate senators retiring, are we entering a new era of politics run by extremists? I'm Janae Bowens in Washington with a look at the concerns.
Several prominent moderates are retiring, and it's deepening concerns that the future of politics could be run by extremists on both sides of the aisle. The National Desk's Janae Bowens takes a closer look at the potential impact on your elections.
Moderate Senators Mitt Romney, Joe Manchin, and Kyrsten Sinema will not seek re-election.
Americans still choose to retreat farther to their partisan corners.
There are now more questions on if we've entered a new era of politics run by far-right and far-left extremists.
For a whole variety of reasons. Some of it is primary voters, wanting a more extreme nominee for their party. Some of it's party leadership.
Government professor Dr. Stephen Medvick of Franklin and Marshall College says the parties are at least partially to blame for the seemingly divisive political climate.
Or if they're going poorly, you'll still say your own party's, president is doing a good job. So that polarization, which we can really see at the elite level, sort of filters down into the voters as well.
And we need to change the system in order to incentivize better leadership.
The Independent Voter Project is behind California's nonpartisan primary and is pushing for every state to follow suit.
We've given the extremes the ability to nominate candidates, and then finally we go to the rest of the country and say, well, why don't you pick between one of these two?
Matthew Weil of the Bipartisan Policy Center is for voters having more choice, but he isn't convinced politics have been hijacked by extremists.
Congress does act in a bipartisan way across many issues that just never get a whole lot of attention. But I think it's also important to note that even when people come to DC and come to Congress as partisans, most of them do still want to get things done.
But this Congress has been deemed unproductive since they only passed a few dozen bills last year.
And right now, the extremes are sucking all the oxygen out of the room.
Frustrations over extreme politicians seems to be shared by voters. A Gallup poll shows 63% agree the Republican and Democratic parties do such a poor job of representing the American people that a third major party is needed. In Washington, I'm Janae Bowens.
We are getting ready for the next weather maker, leading to rainy and windy conditions tomorrow. 53 for the high temperature. Will dry out by Sunday, but it is going to be windy with gusts up to 40 miles per hour. Another windy day on Monday, but then we warm up and quiet down after that. 67 on Tuesday, 69 on Wednesday. Then we're talking the low 70s on Thursday and Friday. We have the chance for scattered showers on Friday, and unfortunately heading into the rest of the weekend, again, the chance for showers on Saturday. After that, temperatures gradually fall back to the 50s. Maxine?
Well, finally tonight, no one likes intruders, even when they're fake. Staff at the Cincinnati Zoo and Botanical Garden placed a papier-mâché Yeti in the snow leopard's habitat. And while the animals did not know what to think, they curiously checked out the creature. One almost ripped off its leg. It was all part of an enrichment activity for physical and mental stimulation. That's all for Fox 45 News at 6. Family Feud is next. We'll see you again tonight at 10. Have a great night.